talking about a limiting belief system. Now, this is the number one thing that stops people from launching a personal brand, the thing that stops people from making content. The thing. Now, a limiting belief system can be worded as self-doubt, can be worded as imposter syndrome, can be worded as fear. But if you can get past this, if you can actually reframe some of these things that are actually stopping you, or even identifying where they come from, that's going to be a really important part. If you grew up as a blue collar kid, you'll hear things like money. Let's just use money for an example. Like, money is the root of all evil. You heard money makes the world go round. Do you think money grows on trees? We can't afford that. When you have these things programmed into you as a kid, you actually carry those things into your adulthood or however old you are right now. But we all have limiting belief systems. And the only thing stopping us from starting and getting to a point of success is identifying where these come from and how we learn these patterns and how we can actually reframe this. So I can teach you about identity and influence and how to make money off building a personal brand. But if you don't have the courage to identify where your limiting belief system comes from, it's going to be really important. It's going to stop you from even trying. And this is why I wanted to put this in there, because it is the most important part. Now, whenever I talk to people within the content space, I always say the exact same thing. And if you ever look at someone who's successful, do you ever look at them and go, how have they got success? They've got successful just through the point of starting and then repeating and then trying again, then failing, then not letting that stop them, then keep going. That's how they've got to a point of success. You ever look at someone who's not as talented as you, who's not as smart as you, but they seem to be growing and making money, is because they've got past this limiting belief system of starting. This is what happens when you start a piece of content and you start to try something new. You're going to get judged. Someone from within your close circle, someone in and around you is going to go, you think you're better than me? Or who do you think you are? And that thought of fear actually scares people from even trying. I was talking to a mate the other day and we were talking about starting content, and he goes, I'm scared of what people will say about me when I'm not in the room. I was probably not even in the room. Why would you even care? And we had this big conversation and we stripped it all the way down, and there was three things that he was scared of. And the number one was fear. And I go, what are you fearful of? And he goes, I don't know. So he was scared to start something new because he was scared of something that he wasn't even know that he was scared of. So if you strip the stuff all the way back, it's actually a really interesting exercise to go through. And as we go through this module here, there's actually going to be a PDF down the bottom that you can download and print out. I really want you guys to spend time on that, because that's going to be the most important part of overcoming these limiting belief systems. If you've watched your parents argue about money and fight because of money, you're going to fear money because it's something that caused problems within your household because you never had it. If you've never grown up in and around success and you haven't seen it before, you might believe that isn't for me. I'll talk about a few different personal experiences for myself that I struggled with within there, and you guys will probably have something similar. So success was a limiting belief for me. I'll teach you one thing about success right now. Success does not discriminate. It doesn't give a fuck who you are, how old you are, what race you are, what religious belief you are, who you believe in terms of politics. There are $1 million kids that are 5 years old, 6 years old, because they're making content on YouTube, doing doing unboxings of new toys. Anyone can be successful. And if you don't believe that, that's a limiting belief system that's already stopping you from being successful. So that's important. So success was a limiting belief for me. I grew up in a small town. My dream to play NRL as a kid, I had no one in my hometown who played NRL before. And it would have been easier if there was some guy who was a couple of years older than me that had made it, and I can just copy him. He grew up down the street from me. He was from the same place that I'm from. So I had a limiting belief around making it NRL, and I ended up making it anyway. When I moved into business, I had never been to a business school before. I'd read a bunch of books, but I launched a business without taking a business course or going to university. I had a limiting belief system around no one's going to buy your clothes, no one's going to watch your content. And it always scared me, but that feeling in my stomach was always my guide in life to go, if I can get past this, good things are on the other side of that. And that's the experience I've learned through life. It is like, when you're nervous, all the good things lay on the other side of fear. Now, your limiting belief system might be, I want to be a personal brand in and around this certain thing, but there's already someone in there who's a lot more successful than me, and they're going to judge me. Okay? So understanding what your limiting belief system is the thing that is stopping you, the thing that scares you the most about making the content, is just going to be the greatest unlock of this whole course. And this is why I wanted to put it in the free section, because if you get anything out of this, this is the most important lesson. Now, these are some of the limiting belief systems, and everyone has them. Now, everyone has limiting beliefs. They're invisible scripts from upbringing, society, and past failures. Your brand is an extension of your identity. If you don't address these beliefs, they'll leak into your content, your confidence, and offers. Now, the best personal brands that I see online are just extensions of their own personalities. They exaggerate themselves a slight bit to the left or to the right to make content. A lot of my content is just based around things that I love. I love business. I love talking about content. I love personal branding. I run a clothing brand as well. So when I make content, it's just an extension of the things that I'm passionate about. Therefore, I don't get caught up in different things. A lot of people have limiting belief factors or confidence issues because they start to try and be something they're not. There's a lot of people within this online space that are promoting Lamborghinis and fancy lifestyles. I bet you in the pit of their gut, before they're about to post things, they're scared to post them because they know they're faking a certain lifestyle. And they get away with it when they're a little bit younger. But as they start to get older, conscience starts to kick in. I used to promote gambling for a certain company. I've done it for a couple of months, but I knew every time I posted that piece of content, I always felt bad because I understood the influence that I had within Polynesians and Māori boys and anyone within Australia and New Zealand who sort of looked up to me. I was influencing them to do something negative. Therefore, I always had that pit feeling in my gut that I never wanted to post it. So remember, personal brand should be an extension of your personality, aligned with passions heading towards where you want to go. Beliefs shape actions. If you believe I'm not good enough, you'll hesitate to post, reach out, or charge what you're worth. Now, charging what you're worth is a real interesting conversation as well. Like, my limiting belief factors were built through culture. So I'm a Polynesian kid. We don't talk about money on the dinner table. We don't ask people how they got successful because in our culture, that's considered rude. So my limiting belief system that I had is when I had success come through and a lot of money come into my system, I used to just give it all away, or I used to just donate it to certain people because I didn't believe I was worthy of that due to my upbringing of culture. If anyone who had money would sort of, they're snooty, they think they're better than us. Ended up losing most of my money as well because of that limiting belief factor of, I've earned that money, I deserve it, and I want to put it into something great for my future, where I was just like, I don't deserve this, so let me just try and bring everyone else with me or bring all the boys with me. And it ended up costing me six figures, like hundreds of thousands of dollars by making really bad mistakes. And I don't want you to have that limiting belief system about you. Once success comes in, you deserve that. The shift is identity-based, moving from I'm not the type of person who to I am the type of person who. An example of this is when I talk to people, vocabulary is one of the most important things you can have. When they say, I can't afford that, that becomes a statement. Once that becomes a statement, that's the end of the road. A different conversation you can have with this is, how can I afford that? So this is a better conversation to have with yourself, with your mind, because you start speaking like a question. Now, when you ask a question to your answers, so instead of you saying, I can't afford that, you can go, how can I afford that? Then your mind starts to tick over. And remember, it goes from mental into your thoughts into words, words into actions, actions into results. That's the most important thing. So the conversations that you have with yourself in your brain between your two ears are the most important things. So understanding what your limiting belief system is and then reframing it and asking a certain question is one of the most powerful tools that you can have with yourself. Now, the key to everything in life is just reframing. Whenever you have your first thought pattern and when something happens, you're like, how can I reframe this into something that's not always positive, but that moves you into a different direction? Remember, mental thoughts, words, actions, results. That's the system that we always go through, from top down, in, out, results. So reframing is one of the most important things that we can do. Now, money. If I ask you, what does money mean to you? What would your answer be? A lot of people define money as something that they can't have. They might define it as a dollar value. How I've reframed money for me is this: energy. I see money as energy. Money is energy. That's something that flows, cash flow, the money circulation. Money is constantly in circulation. Now, I also define money as a unit of service. So you know how a lot of people will go, here's dollar, and you pay for something. People see it as a medium of exchange. So what it is like, I buy this water bottle, I don't want the water, so I'll give you money, and then we swap it over this. For me, I see money as a unit of service. So, what is service? If I can serve people, if I can solve their problems, if I can create a unique service that no one else can provide, what it's actually going to do is, from a universal standpoint and an energy standpoint, like energy, energy. If I can provide the most service out there, I'm actually going to get a lot of units back. Those units are actually dollars or Australian dollars as I live down here. But if I can give that as much value as humanly possible, the universe or God or whatever you believe in is going to return that back through units of service that we know as dollars. Now, I've done this in the past and had great success from it, but my limiting belief factor that I had before was I didn't deserve that money. So I used to try and find ways to spend it or give it away because I didn't feel I was deserving of it. So these might be some of the most limiting beliefs that you have right now when building a personal brand. I don't have enough followers yet. That's perfect. The way that the algorithm moves right now, it wants to be super niche, and I'll do a bit of a breakdown on this soon. So an example of this is you might already have a following, but that following base is based around what you used to be about. You want to move into this new space. Therefore, it's probably best to create a new Instagram page or Reels page so that you can tap into the algorithm off the bat and you can grow from there. Why would anyone listen to me? Why not? A lot of people think personal brand is about selling everything. You just need to solve one person's problem. If you can solve one person's problem, you can actually solve 1,000 people's problems because there's going to be other people that actually look at them. Now, you don't have to be the smartest person in the world. You just have to be a little bit smarter than the person that you're trying to educate or you're trying to teach or you're trying to show a different way of doing that. And that's the big thing that's been the unlock in personal branding and digital, especially digital products, which we'll talk about a little bit later, is that you only have to solve a simple problem. Example of this is I created a gym guide for gyms on how to make 60 pieces of content in a month. And that guide's done really well for me. And it's $100 to take the guide. And then there's gym owners that don't know how to make content because they're so busy making gyms, they want to buy that program. So if you sell 1,000 of those programs at $100, there's $100,000. And I haven't even pushed it out. I've done 2 stories on it and that's it. And I've done 15 units, which means $1,500, which is okay. And then I'll start to put ad spend behind it a little bit later. I'm not an expert. Nobody wants to learn from an expert. Example of this is if you're into running, if you're into training, imagine someone who's just trying to start out and then they go run with a marathon runner off the bat. If they go train next to them, they're going to be discouraged by that because they're too far ahead. Now, you don't want to be an expert within the space. You just want to be someone who's relatable that you can help to get them to the point where you are. What if people judge me? I always say hate is a KPI of success. It means you're heading in the right direction. If you want to not be hated, not be judged, don't do anything. Live your life, go be old, stay out of everyone's way, die with regrets. My biggest fear in life is getting to a point in life where I'm old and I'm about to die and I regretted the existence that I had, the one chance at life that I had and I didn't do the things that I love to do. That's my biggest fear. I don't want to seem too salesy. Salesy is a really interesting conversation. So the way I reposition sales is I have a very clear definition on how I perceive money to be. I see money as a unit of service. If I can serve someone and solve their problems, I'm actually going to get those units back. You only feel salesy if you're selling something that you don't believe in. I'm too late to the market. The market is already saturated. We'll do a breakdown on this. I believe every industry needs an authority figure that's sort of based around 5 or 10 years north or south of them. And what I mean by that is I've got a friend who's in the real estate game. He'd kill it in the online personal branding space, but he believes there's a guy above him that's already selling all the stuff that he needs to. Now, a 20-year-old doesn't listen to a 40-year-old because they're basically, that guy's almost dead. Man. I remember being 18, going to my cousin's 30th. You're almost retired. So everyone needs a person that they can look up to within their space, and I believe that can be you. Now, remember, this is the key part. You don't have to be special to start, but you do have to start to be special. And the only thing that stops most people from starting is a limiting belief system. That's the lesson for today. I want you guys to go down to the bottom of this. There is going to be a PDF that you can download, print it out. Take your time on this because this is probably going to be one of the greatest unlocks that you have in life. The thing that is actually stopping you is probably something from your childhood, probably something through growing up that you learned from mostly your parents. Everyone's got childhood, something within their childhood that's an unlock. An example of this is like me and my brother grew up in the exact same house, and with the exact same parents, but we have different belief systems through experience, through education, through life, because I was able to unpack some of those things and sort of move towards a different direction. And he's done great and had success in his own life. I've had success in my own life, but we have very different belief systems, even though we grew up in the same house. So take your time on this. You might spend a week on this. This might be a bit of therapy. This might be conversations with loved ones. This might be conversations with siblings on how they believe certain things to be. Because remember, everything in life can be reframed. Imagine if I go to you, do you want to eat some breadcrumbs shoved up a chicken's ass? You're probably going to say no, but I say, if you want some stuffing, it's something nice. So everything in life can be reframed. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. I'll see you in the next one.